Hi, welcome to JoJo's Mojo. I am so glad to have my guest, John Morris, here with me. Hi, John. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jojo. It is fantastic to be here with you. And it's actually my first interview live, I suppose, with you guys from Mupo Entertainment. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm looking forward to doing it today.
We're going to go out for a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have more with John. Welcome back, everyone, to JoJo's Mojo. We're back with John Morris. I wanted to ask you, John, the reason for my show is because I want people to understand that they can have several bottoms, but they can rise, push through, and become the best version of themselves.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, what was your ultimate bottom in your lifetime that resonates with you to where you knew that you needed to start going up with your life?
I think one of the things that comes straight to my mind was not dealing with my own feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And you've heard the phrase before, I'm sure, that, whatever you focus on, you are going to attract into your life. As we talked a little bit before, off air and things, I was a youth minister for 15 years. I saw a lot of the good stuff. I saw a lot of the negative stuff as well. And I took all of that on board and I blamed myself for a lot of the stuff that was there, and then kept asking myself the question, why are they behaving this way towards me? These are meant to be these good and wonderful people and everything, and they're behaving in that way. Folks, if you're watching this, you already know that when you are going through these things, if you don't deal with them properly, it doesn't get better. And it often, people say, oh, it just gets better by itself. It often doesn't. It's what we call the ostrich syndrome. We stick our head in the sand. And in psychology, you look at this a lot on people's beliefs and how they just believe that, everything's going to be fine. It's all going to be wonderful. And it's that false hope, as opposed to, what about if you do something about it? So, the ultimate response for me in the bottom moment was when, I had taken as much as I could, and I just kept replaying the same situations over and over and over and over again. Anxiety was out of control. There was a lot of things that was out of control at that point. I was not making good decisions. I was not making good choices. And I was probably, again, one or two steps away from, serious, issues going on. There was a lot of things that were happening with health at that time that were all related. This is the other thing that people don't often understand, is your mindset and the stuff that you allow into your life is going to come out. It's going to affect in some way. Whatever you put in there is going to come out in some way. So if you put in anger in there all the time, then it's going to affect your digestive system. It's going to affect your mind. It's going to affect your focus and everything that's there. But that, for me, the ultimate reality was I was drinking, and I was drinking, stupid amounts. And there was an art tutorial that we were filming, and I was actually, to give you an indication, I was blind drunk. That's the best way to describe it. I could see the canvas, but where I'd painted and I'd spent hours and hours and hours doing a lot of really cool detail, I was then covering up with cloud and doing all this stuff because I couldn't see it. And that's how far it had gone. And only by watching the video back, and I was like, oh my gosh, my face was red. I had this big dot on my nose and everything. And I was communicating. I can teach art in my sleep, but it was just like, oh boy, this is not going to end well. And it ended up basically where I couldn't stand up. My motor skills had gone, and the next day, for me, I certainly believe, in God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, the divine spirit, and if you don't, that's okay. That's fine. It doesn't change my life either way, but I'm speaking, with what I have. And the next morning I woke up, and the first thing was feeling that presence and hearing that voice saying, look, you can't control how they behave. That's on them. but you have to control how you behave. And that was one of the biggest things. Now, it didn't just all of a sudden turn around and become all amazing and everything. And as we'll talk about later, that happened of this year in 2021 in January and February, where all of the stuff just went. And it was, an incredible, transforming, divine thing that went on, still happening to this day. And it's gone on to save literally thousands, and we're getting into the millions of lives around the world. So that for me is a little bit of the story. If you take a lot of the stuff on of what people have said to you in work, and you don't allow that to go, and you don't realize, hey, I can't control how this person is. They're behaving in such a way that I don't know about. All I can control is me. And whatever decisions you need to make, then, you need to make them, and you got to trust that it'll be okay. There's always other places you can go to make money, to do other things, but you don't go to work to be a punching bag or to be verbally abused or anything. You go there to be a cog to keep the overall thing going. So that's that's in a nutshell.
Definitely. I want to let the audience know that if anybody's out there that are feeling isolated and alone, that's the first feeling you're going to get and maintain when you're in your addiction.
Yeah, definitely.
It's very important. I want to be an ambassador for recovery.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, there's been a lot of people where the alcoholism has increased, domestic violence has increased, crime, and that fear and that scarcity.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
I was just going to say, Jojo, that what I've come to discover through my research, and I'm now a psychologist in training, which is really, really cool, and that's one of the things that we're looking at doing to help other people. But a lot of it is a reflection on a person's state of mind. And at the beginning, we had several people we were working with in our coaching program, and we said, look, use this time as a time of opportunity. We're talking about when lockdown happened and when all of this crazy stuff started happening. Just want to clarify. And we said, use this as a time of opportunity, because when else have you ever been given a paid vacation for a year or for 2 years over here? Certainly. And, for some people, they came out of this, they'd read more books than they ever had. Their life had changed. They picked up new habits. They picked up really good things. Conversely, two of the people we were working with didn't do that. And all they did was to sit around the house looking around saying, well, when will this be over? When can I get back to work? And it's like, what would you do if your life changed completely where you couldn't go back to work? You have to transition. Everything in life is a transition, and it's knowing how to navigate those things. So when you look at that, but you're absolutely right in terms of suicide rates, in terms of alcoholism, drug rate, abuse of many different kinds, all of that skyrocketed. And at that point, I'm sitting there thinking, I wish at this point, it's like divine spirit, go forth and open these doors so as I can reach as many people as possible. Because had we been able to sit there and say, look, focus your mind, use this time wisely, I think a lot more could have been done for sure.
True, but we're not alone.
Correct.
Definitely. So I want to just leave that for everybody to really, really soak in. And I believe in groups, community, not being alone. Go into a recovery group. It's free. It's around the world. Mm-hmm. And it's a great place to go. And it saves people's lives. And that's what you and I are here to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully you'll find a group that is, future thinking as well, not that just wants to sit there and dwell in the issue. Because I've been part of several of those in the past that all they want to do is talk about their problems and their issues. And I'm like, guys, after 3 years, we still ain't any further forward on than what we're doing.
But it's comfortable.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about fear and being uncomfortable, being stuck and getting out of it. And we're going to ask more about John and what he's doing today to help people, because it's very important we come together as a collective, collaborate, talk as a community of like-minded individuals and heal the world. I'm really excited. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to JoJo's Mojo with John Morris. Welcome back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. When we left for the break, we were going to talk about fear, how not to just stay stuck in it.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you what you're doing now, so we could just run those two things together, because when you're at your bottom, you're kind of stuck, and you just need someone, some mentor, to just kind of push you forward a little bit to progress.
I think it's a really interesting topic for sure. And the book that's behind me, The Battles We All Face, is one of the things that I think really kind of, help me use my experience for other people. And in it, we talk about, 40 different topics and break them down really simply, and anxiety being one of them. So I firmly believe, and from the research that I've done, anxiety and so many other mental health battles, struggles, whatever you want to call it, comes down to what we're focusing on. So for example, fear, people can be terrified of everything, from, going outside to society to, what happens if this, what happens if that. And when you really break it down, a lot of these battles are, it's really a fear of the future or a fear of the past, a fear of what could be or a fear of what has been. Now, what's going on when, we have anxiety? First of all, folks, you've got to know this. Anxiety is not something we are born with. You can have an anxiety strain in your DNA, okay? But we are not born with this. It is actually something we develop. And we develop it by not, I suppose in some ways, taking care of our own inner engineering and our own self. So it's constantly going on. And when we constantly focus on fear and all the stuff that's going out in the world, all the stuff, the propaganda that's in the news, for example, and all you're hearing is worry, 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 fear, 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 what do you think you're going to attract? Whatever you focus on is going to manifest in your life in one form or another. Remember, everything you put in is going to come out in so many different ways. And if you don't believe me, do a test yourself. Don't watch the news for a week and see how you feel. Trust me, if there's anything, folks, that you need to know, that, social media will tell you. You'll find out some way. But the news, oftentimes globally is not the best place that you want to spend your time. So when you're going through this, and this is really what I found in my own life, I was terrified to go into certain towns because being a church minister and a youth minister, I didn't want to see the people that I'd worked with, because in my mind, it was such a painful experience because I'd had health issues with colitis. I'd been put on medication, but they didn't look at any of that. It was just this John Morris, he's this. And they didn't want to know the full story. So they judged me even before they got to know me, really. And that was after all those years. So Jojo, what I ended up going through was just, again, my wife would call it severe paranoia. The medication didn't help. The focus on fear and the anxiety and how could they do this? And all of that was going on every single day. And, it got to a place and a point where, like I say, was drinking, anxiety was off the wall. It was just insane. I mean, anybody who hugs the radiator for 2 hours before delivering an art class, there's something seriously wrong there, folks. And you've got to learn how to deal with it. And deal with it, I did. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a little bit. So for me, that was a really, really big thing. When you're sitting in that fear, when you are festering it, when you are focusing on it every single day, that is what you are going to attract into your life. And it's only going to get worse. Quick thing for you folks, bipolar. The way that I look at bipolar, your cells start out together and joined. And then what happens when you have an anxiety attack or a bipolar attack is they split slightly, and then it splits a little bit more. And every time you don't deal with it, it splits a little bit more, a little bit more. And that's why we have so many increased cases of bipolar, schizophrenia, PTSD, and BPD, borderline personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and anxiety, and suspected bipolar was all things that I had as a result of not dealing with all of these things. Now, where I'm at, there isn't a trace of any of that. I haven't had an anxiety attack in over a year now as a result of taking care and really figuring this out. So I'm sure, Jojo, that you're probably interested to know what was it that happened that, all of a sudden changed all this for me. You're nodding. I'm assuming so.
What happened? What happened? Tell me.
So Talk about this and talk about everything being divine. Okay. And it was back in January of this year, 2021. I'm sitting in the office downstairs. I'd been up and down emotionally, and I put on YouTube. And I had my headphones in, and don't ask me why, don't ask me how, never heard of the guy before, but Wayne Dyer and his everyday wisdom came on YouTube. Within an hour, I felt completely different. Within 2 hours, anxiety, BPD, PTSD, all the other stuff had gone completely. I went through to my wife and I said, it's all gone. And she's like, what? First of all, what the heck are you talking about? It's all gone.
Right.
It's like all of that, anger and bitterness and, envy and jealousy and misery, all the negative stuff that I'd been harboring for 5 years was gone in 2 hours. Now, I'm not sitting here saying, guys, go listen to Wayne Dyer and everything will be fine. Hey, that's my experience. But then I sat there and I did this every single day for 7 days. And I noticed that I had become so peaceful. Nothing was actually getting to me. I was learning to observe the situation and not partake of it. And then I sat there like so many have done. I said, okay, if that worked for this area of my life, what would happen if I actually started doing all this other stuff? So this year alone, I've studied 4 university courses, 3 of them in psychology, with the University of Yale, MIT, Stanford, and philosophy with Yale as well. All on their online programs. I'm now studying for a BSc in psychology. I've studied courses left, right, and center. I think I've listened to over 750 books now in the span of 8 months because I just kept going. I just couldn't stop. So every time I was painting, my headphones were in, and I just kept going and going and going. And what I found was the mindset became so powerful, the doors opened. I told a friend of mine an idea that I had for teenage life coaching. And I said, we've got to tell people about this. And she was like, I don't know, whatever you need, but I'm on board and I'm working with you. In the span of an hour, I ended up with a business partner. And then I ended up working with the LA Tribune. And then I ended up with all of, my books and all of these ideas and stuff that I'm working on right now. My first ever novel series coming out next year. All of these things happened. Business exploded. I ended up doing less work, having much more joy, much more fun with my customers and clients. And I guess working actually less than I had before, and yet with record numbers in business and sales. So that's, for me, proof in the pudding. And again, like I said right at the beginning, people say, well, I don't believe that. And I said, well, that's up to you. It doesn't affect me either way, whether you believe me or not. But it may affect you whether or not you take, stuff at all. So now what we're doing is to teach this as well, to teach people how to align their mindset, to teach people, how they can actually do it, because this stuff isn't difficult. You've just got to figure out a plan of where you want to be, and then where you want, how you're going to get there. And because of my background in so many different areas, I literally work with people now from all over the world, whether it's on their business, whether it's on their relationships, on their mindset, basically whatever they've got. I sit and I just listen. And that's one of the biggest things. I'm like, okay, how can I help? Let's see what we can do. So it's been a phenomenal transformation, obviously, that I'm really passionate about. And you see a lot of coaches that are out there that are, well, this happened to me and it was all wonderful, but you're like, okay. But when you've been on both sides of the coin, anyone with anxiety knows when someone with anxiety is being honest. Same with anyone without alcoholism or drugs or anything, right? Because of how they speak about it. That's when people are like, this person's actually been through this, and it makes a humongous difference. So it does, because they're relating. We're human beings, right? We're relational creatures. And if we can relate to the person, it makes it all the better to heal them and help them. Correct. And what I find more than anything, Jojo, with the teaching that I put forward now, I dropped a lot of labels that I had, whether it be religious or social standing or anything like that. And I just was like, yeah, I don't need them, and the pressures that are there. And I simply am more than anything else. And, one of the things that I found more than anything, you talk religion to people or anything that they associate with religion, the shutters come down. For me, I tell people, look, I'm not a spiritual teacher, because by my definition, any person who desires to be a spiritual teacher shouldn't be, because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. A spiritual teacher is someone who stands there can talk and then gets about their business. And that's, that's that. So that's what I find. And I'm always non-threatening by what I put out there, but it always gets people thinking, hopefully different ways. And that's always the aim for sure.
Well, there's a certain amount of being genuine.
Definitely.
And people like honest people. When I say something honest, when I'm dealing with customers, they're like, that's refreshing. Thank you.
Yes.
I really appreciate the fact that you're saying it like it is.
Definitely. Because people know that's the crazy thing. People know, when you're being honest and when you're not.
Oh, they do.
You can tell it by the eyes, you can tell it by twitching, you can tell it also by the energy. And it's such, clarity and it's obvious. So you find that it's easy just to be honest with people, because if you're not, then they'll never trust you again if they find out.
Right. You want to live what you're teaching.
Definitely.
And it's very important. There's a lot of people out there that do not live what they're teaching.
Yeah.
And respect is earned.
Of course. Because at the end of the day, if you can't trust somebody who's advising you, then why would you ever want to listen to that person? And I've told people before, because obviously, folks, you'll know this, and you'll know this as well, Jojo, that when you're buying something from somebody online, trust is a humongous thing, especially for me. I've got clients around the world now. I've built that up over 2 decades that will come to me and say, John, can you do a custom cat portrait, dog portrait, elephant, whatever, landscape, seascape. And then, sometimes they get a little bit nervous and they say, well, what happens if, I pay you this money and, you don't do the job for me? And I said, well, first of all, we do it through PayPal, so you're covered. But the second thing is I comfort them as much as I possibly can. But often I found myself saying it will not benefit me and it will not benefit my business if I don't do the job. And if I take the money and run. Because all that does, you'll find a way to get it back. It's just a temporary changing of hands. It's just a tool. But it's not going to benefit me. It's not going to benefit my business long term if I do that. So that puts them at ease and they're like, wow, I've never had someone so honest with me as a business person before. I'm like, well, I run business very differently.
Well, and you're going to be successful because you're falling in line with the universe and what you're supposed to do. And you're doing the right thing. It's about doing the right thing. Yeah.
And I think, the biggest thing I can tell and hopefully help anybody with is if you really want to know what divine spirit, again, has for you and, you call it a plan or a purpose or whatever, all you need to do is listen. And that means, it's not going to kill you to shut off the news. It's not going to kill you to shut off TV and all that stuff. But so many people miss their divine purpose. That is more incredible and more amazing than you can ever think of. And it's often the times the things that you're really passionate about. So for me, it's my books, it's coaching, it's speaking, it's my artwork, of course. And more than that, it's working from home. I love working from home. Means on the cold days, I don't need to go out. But, it's often the things that you're really passionate about. That's often your purpose in life. And then all you got to do is figure out how to make a living with that. And it's not, trust me, folks, I've done it in 5 different areas in the creative sector. So if I can do it there, then it is possible to do that for sure.
Well, and as they say, anything's possible.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to come back after this commercial break with John, and we're going to talk about what his future plans are to help people around the world. Welcome back to JoJo's Mojo. We're going to continue with John Morris. Now, John, we talked about where you were, what you've done. We're going to talk about what your goals are for the future and what you want to accomplish. So what's your biggest goal for the future?
Honestly, the project that I'm working on right now I think it's going to be a big thing. It is something I'm very, very passionate about and have been for the last several years. Anytime that I've tried to walk away from it, it's always come back. So that to me is just like, okay, this is what you need to do. And it's actually a novel series of historical fiction, easy for me to say without tripping over my own teeth, historical fiction, and it's called Art Through the Ages. And basically it's taking a lot of the real life stories that have happened that society and people have kind of wanted to forget about, and it's writing about them as they actually would have been. So this series of novels takes place in a variety of locations. And the really cool thing is there's an awesome hero in this story. And, you know, when I was sitting thinking about it, I was like, who could tell the story any better? And where do you want to go with this? And what kind of, you know, thing is it going to be about? It originally started out as an art history docudrama. And then when COVID happened, filming obviously shut down and everything and all of the stuff that happened there. So then I transitioned into books and writing about it. And basically, I am the hero in my own story. And the way that you look at that is you can take certain professions and you can take them and apply them to this setting. For example, it would work with music. It wouldn't work, for example, with gynecology. Gynecology through the ages is not a good thing to write about. Just putting that out there, folks. But art through the ages is something that's there because art has always been a big thing. And plus, with all my background and stuff that's there, it was writing. Again, it's almost like writing about myself in an alternate timeline and what would happen if you have the ability to be able to go back, because I love history. So there are 13 books in this series. There's 10 in the actual series, and then there's 3 spin-offs, the first of which is looking to be released November 17th next year, which I believe will be 2022. And it's going through the editing process right now, which is really excited. And, you know, there's many, many goals, you know, for this as well. And I think, in all honesty, it is to outsell J.K. Rowling of the Harry Potter series. Okay, now and I keep telling people this. Now, it's not for the money. What it's for is because what that means with the audience you've got and how they fall in love with your characters. That was the thing that was in my mind more than anything. And the characters come to life. You know, they really do. So you're going to get to experience what it was like, for example, in this historical time period. You know, and each book is a different time period for sure. You're going to get to experience what it was like, what they went through on a day-to-day basis, you know, some of the stuff that they had to live through. And it's not going to be one of these fluffy books that you think, oh, well, that was nice, we'll chuck it to the side. This is going to be something that you can immerse yourself into, but it's also going to have a lot of self-help, real life lessons that, again, the names and faces are the only things that change. The lessons don't. The lessons are always the same. Right. So I've had a blast writing the first in the series and doing the artwork for them as well. And it's something that I'm really passionate about for sure. So it'll be for young teens and adults. And then I'm still working obviously on self-help books as well, and paintings around the world and coaching and doing all that really cool stuff.
Oh, that's cool. You're pretty. I look forward. I'm a teenager inside, so I look forward to listening to them.
Well, the other thing about it is it will be available in paperback, in Kindle, and audio version as well. I narrate all the audio books as well, and I find that I can communicate with the listener a lot better through the audio version. I know the first couple that we've done have been tremendous fun, but also the artwork that's in it is actually sitting in our vault, and it will not be seen for many years. The only way you're going to actually be able to get to see this artwork is through the book. And that's done specifically because we want it to be something special for the reader as well, that they buy the book and it's like, oh, I've got something here that nobody else or only a select few have. And we may release it, when all the books have been done and dusted, and put it into a gallery in London. But for now, it's actually sitting upstairs in the vault, and it's all protected, and it's tremendous. I love it, and I love how it comes to life. And I think for me, just being able to create those stories, to see them play out, and also in some ways be able to channel them, is phenomenal. And the first book was written basically in 11 days. And it's like God had said to me, here's a basis for you to begin with. Now build whatever you want on top. So my wife would come in and she was asking a few questions. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And it sparked a thought, which then leads to something else. And it becomes more dramatic and energetic than anything you would ever think. And this isn't going to be a sleepy book, folks. This is going to be a roller coaster ride. So I'm like life, the drama is always around there. You've just got to know where to look for it. So I'm excited.
I love it. I look forward to that. That's amazing. It's like a treasure chest of goodies.
Oh, yes. It is. It's phenomenal.
I'm so excited.
The crazy thing about it, Jojo, is I'm looking at the board right now, and I've got the first 6 and the last book in terms of the titles laid out and the dates that they're going to be coming out. Okay. And the project begins, it's already begun, but in terms of release, it starts in 2022 and finishes in 2035. So people had looked at me and were like, oh my goodness, you're actually serious when you're saying this is going to be a big part of your life's work. And I'm like, yeah. And it's basically because the ideas presented themselves to me. Right. And it's that whole thing about going inner and listening and just sitting there and saying, okay, tell me what to write, and the characters present themselves to you. And it's something very different for sure. That takes it bigger. That actually takes it bigger, because then you become the paintbrush. Definitely. That's all the book is, you're painting, but using words. And what I found, both doing the artwork and creating the books, it allowed me to find another level of consciousness and awareness that I wasn't even aware of having when I was doing the painting. So this year, like I say, has been the beginning of a whole lot of really exciting stuff. And the works that we're also doing aside from Art Through the Ages, with the Inner Engineering Self-Mastery series, as we were talking about a little bit off air, we've got the next in the series that's going to be coming out next year as well, 2022, all being well. And it's called The Battles That Teens Face, so teenagers. And like we were saying, there are so many that they, face. And what I do is to take really complex and difficult topics and break them down into very, very simple, understandable things. So again, whether it be sexual identity, whether it be the temptations and all the new stuff that's there, we do not have an issue, certainly in this organization, about touching on the, and going in deeper with the hard topics. A lot of people want to sort of skirt around them and pretend that they're not happening, but they are. And people need guidance. So it's the subline is something along the lines of, hope for the minds of the future, or something like that, because that's what's going to be happening for sure. I think it's amazing, and I do see a shift in the energy in the collective. Now COVID was rough and tough, and people lost a lot of their family and friends, and I want to say that I'm sorry for your loss. Because it's not helping people is talking about the tough issues. Yeah, definitely. And processing, because death is a part of life, unfortunately. Yeah. And so I want to let everybody know that my heart goes out to you, those who have lost loved ones, because I've lost many over the last 5 years. And so I understand, but we have to live while we're here. Yes. And so, yeah, definitely. So I want to thank you for coming on my show. And I want you to tell the audience how to get a hold of you, all your places where we can get a hold of you and find out more about John Morris. The best place to find me, folks, for all the good content, whether it's art, inner engineering, self-mastery coaching, or whether it's my books and when they're going to be released, You can come and find me on Instagram at the John Morris. You can head to thejohnmorris.co.uk, and you can come and find me on Facebook as well at the John Morris. But Instagram and the website are usually really good. Also, you can check me out on Amazon for my books. And again, treat yourself, because trust me, it's something very, very, very different than what you're normally going to find for a self-help book. And also on YouTube as well at Mind, Body and Soul Show with John Morris.
That's amazing. And I'm so excited to have future conversations with you. And of course, there's going to be many seasons of JoJo's Mojo. So there's be a lot of new faces, which I'm really excited about.
It's good, and it's been a pleasure, and thank you so much, Jojo, for I suppose welcoming me and doing the first interview as well. So I love it.
You're welcome. Well, you are definitely someone to look up to.
Oh, thank you very much. We are all divine, and it's
yes, we are all divine. Yes, we are. All right, guys, have a wonderful day and a good week, and we'll see you next Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern on Mupo Entertainment, JoJo's Mojo. Have an awesome Mupo day.